First, you turn the time circuits on. If you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
This is what makes time travel possible.
Flux capacitor.
We're sending you back to the future.
Time was not kind to the time machine.
It had been sitting out in the rain for years, and all these pieces started to fall off the car.
Every animal possible made a home inside the car.
Anybody could just walk right up to it. Anybody could go in there and sit in it.
Fans would go out there to get a collectible, a memento.
The flux capacitor and the time circuits were missing. The most essential parts of the time machine were just gone.
I felt, no, no, no. Something has to be done. I knew we had to find a way to save the time machine. There was just no question about it.
If you want to learn the story about the Back to the Future time machine, you have to go back to the beginning, back to the pre-production for Back to the Future.
It was an unusual job. They had concept art for these cars. And the concept art was from a couple really talented guys, Ron Cobb and Andy Probert, who was on the show. And our job was to look at those pictures, go out into the real world, try and find stuff that's going to have that same feeling of the pictures. You've got to walk this line. It's got to look right. It's got to look believable. But there has to be some fantasy to it also.
For Back to the Future, we had our special effects department build 3 time machines. The first one was called the A car. It was the most detailed, the best looking, and had all the bells and whistles. It was the main car used throughout the film. The second car was the B car. That car was built for stunt work. It looked good, but it wasn't quite as detailed as the A car. And the third car was the C car, or the process car. It was a DeLorean that we cut in half so that we could get the camera inside. So whenever the camera is in the DeLorean, that's the C car.
The A car was used the most in the movie. It was the hero prop. The first time you see the DeLorean in the film, when it rolls out of Doc Brown's truck, that beautiful, beautiful shot, that is the A car. And every time you think of the DeLorean time machine, you're thinking of the A car.
Of all the time machines built for the first film, Back to the Future, only one survived. The C car was used in all 3 films. It was eventually dismantled. The B car we actually see getting destroyed by the train at the end of Back to the Future Part 3. And that just leaves the A car. That is the only original time machine left from Back to the Future. And thankfully Universal Studios still had that one.
In fall 2011, Nike unveiled their future shoe from Back to the Future Part 2. There was a lot of press interest in this, and Universal hosted an event on the back lot that involved the car and allowed people to get their picture taken with it. And it was just a shock to me to see how dilapidated it was, to see that it was barely holding on together. I have no idea how much longer it would have lasted, but I don't think it would have lasted much more than a few more years.
Right around the time of this project, we were coming up on Universal's 100th anniversary. There was a lot of energy going on at the time in the studio about our past. And here there was the most iconic, movie car in the history of cinema sitting right there. It just needed love and attention. So at that point, I took on the project and started talking about Bob, and we started to assemble the team that would ultimately do the restoration.
Given the importance of the A car, given the importance of Back to the Future, I wanted this thing done perfectly. I didn't want some guy in some auto shop to do it. I needed somebody who was a Back to the Future fan. I needed somebody who loved the DeLorean. And the person I chose for this was Joe Walser.
So this is the hero flux capacitor guts. This is actually what makes time travel possible.
Joe built two of the best DeLorean replicas I'd ever seen. I said, if Joe would do this, I knew it would be done right.
The DeLorean time machine has always been, hands down, my favorite movie car. I've been researching it for over a decade. So when Bob Gale asked me to restore the actual DeLorean time machine, I was like, hell yes. I knew I was going to need a lot of talented people to get this done on time. So I put together a team of the biggest Back to the Future fans and the best time machine builders out there. And we became the official time machine restoration team.
They handed us over the car, and we had 1 year to make this thing perfect.
Our goal was to do a full-on museum quality restoration from top to the bottom. Every piece, every part, restored exactly the way it was when it rolled off the back of Doc's truck in 1985.
I remember when we finally took the car into our possession and looked at the work ahead of us, I turned to Joe and said, this is impossible. And to Joe's credit, nothing is impossible.
Everything came off the car. Every single stainless steel panel that's part of the car, from the front to the back, came off. The seats came out, the carpets came out, the interior trim came out. By the time we got done, all that was left was the interior tub itself that's original to the car.
Once the parts came off the car, it looked like a time machine that exploded in Joe's backyard. I mean, there was literally parts everywhere.
The logistics of this project were insane. There was plenty of work to go around.
The first time I got to hold the screen-used parts in my hands, it was like a religious experience. Going to the church of the 80s, you know, it was my childhood in my hands, and it was my job to fix it.
The condition of everything was so poor, and time was not kind to them at all.
Movie props generally are not built to last very long. They're built to look good on camera, so sometimes the materials that you use aren't the best materials to have something last forever. No one had any idea that they would be so important again.
The panels were warped, they were dented, they had extra holes drilled in them.
We could have just replaced all the panels, but then it wouldn't be the time machine. It would have just kind of been a replica. So we had to fix all of the panels perfectly.
Every piece that we could save, we tried to save. That was our main goal. We wanted the car to be as original as possible.
It's alive! It's glamorous.
I think when Bob first mentioned that he wanted the fan community to be involved in restoring the car, honestly, I was like, what? It seemed like a pretty unusual idea to me. But when you think about it, who better?
The fans are the best ones to do that, because you know fans are the most fickle critics. And so the best one to actually attempt the restoration is going to be the most hardcore fans.
These are the wrong screws, and we don't do things wrong on this project.
The attention to detail was so insane. The wires had to be exactly how the wires were. The colors of the wires had to be right.
If a bolt wasn't quite right, somebody would lose sleep over getting it exactly right. Even if it was something that nobody was going to see, they knew it was going to be there, and Joe wanted it perfect. And you can't ask for more dedication than that.
The lights aren't twinkling, Clark. Yeah, thanks for noticing.
I had the privilege of reassembling the flux capacitor, and as you can see, it's coming together. And that was extremely nerve-wracking because there's all these glass-blown electrode things, and I'm sorry, Joe Walzer, for not getting the terminology right.
They're called Tor relays, Rob.
Yeah, Joe didn't say this to me, but he communicated it through a look, was like, don't break these pieces. But you know, I wasn't gonna let Joe down, I wasn't gonna let the fans down. Nothing got broken. The car has the original flux capacitor back in it, and I'm very proud to say that, you know, I reassembled it.
Oh my God. Tear. Boop. It's epic.
We announced that we were doing this project. We announced we were restoring the original DeLorean, and the reaction worldwide among Back to the Future fans was tremendous. The love that people felt for the car, it was just amazing.
When the movie came out, it was a huge deal for the fans. When the DeLorean was being restored, it was as huge. Everyone was so excited because the DeLorean's becoming the time machine again. It's being resurrected.
It was amazing to know how many people were out there rooting for us.
The fact that there were thousands of people basically watching what we were doing, it's more than a little intimidating. There's a lot of pressure just to get it right.
This morning, woke up around 6:30, drove to Pittsburgh Airport, flew 7 hours to get here. As soon as I landed, they drove me straight to the A car, they threw my luggage over in the corner, and I just had to get straight to work. Not even a chance to eat.
These are the time circuits, not yet bolted in, but it's a good idea of what it's gonna look like. It looks awesome. The time circuits in the A car didn't work at all. The keypad didn't work, you couldn't punch in dates, it wouldn't make sounds. It was all movie magic, and Joe wanted me to make it actually work. Nathan and I basically had to custom build a computer from scratch to control the inside of the A car. So what we're looking at is the complete electronics of the time machine. You could sit there, turn the time circuits on, the flux capacitor will light up, the digits light up, you could type in whatever date you want to go to. Joe and I worked meticulously to make sure that all the timing, all the sounds, all the lights were exactly like they were in the movie.
There we go.
So awesome.
My mindset at this particular moment is I want to go to sleep. Everybody's been up a lot, logging tons of last-minute hours, trying to do the tweaks and get it in and bring it over the finish line. So right now, I just kind of want to go home and get into bed.
So these are the original time machine vents. The vents were actually painted black during a small restoration in the late 90s. They're not supposed to be black, so we're taking all the black paint off, and then they will get specially painted to look the way they did in 1985.
You know, it looks very sporadic and very unintentional, but everything that was painted on the car was very intentional, and every drip and every splatter that we put on the car was on the original car. I think we all have a little bit of a reputation to hold up to, and we all wanted it to be perfect, and we didn't want there to be any flaws or anybody to be able to say, oh, that's not right.
Oh my God, I was going, what was the bad taste? It's that shit.
It's terrible.
That's horrible.
There's no Mr. Fusion on the time machine. Instead of Mr. Fusion, we have the original plutonium reactor. We wanted to go with the very first thing the audience sees, the very first thing Marty sees, the moment that the audience got caught up and grabbed into this world by seeing this amazing car. So that's what we needed to give them.
Wow. Dude, that looks fantastic.
Two weeks before the car was due, Bob Gale was scheduled to stop by. He was going to see the car for the first time and check in on our progress.
You want to make sure that somebody like Bob Gale is happy with the project, because without him, we definitely wouldn't be doing this.
All right. Whoa. This hasn't looked this good since the movies. Man. When I walked into the warehouse where the work was being done, I was in awe. My jaw dropped. It was glorious. You guys are blowing me away with this. This is totally, totally awesome.
We all kind of looked at the car real quick, and then we all really quickly looked at Bob Gale just to see his reaction. And you could just see he was like so happy.
Great Scott.
I looked at the car, and I was standing between Bob Gale and the car, and I was just like, wow. It was just kind of like a boyhood dream come true.
All right, I go like this.
Bob is in no small part the heart and soul of Back to the Future. I mean, it's really his baby. The fact that we could do right by him, and he knew that we could, it was great.
All right. Thank you, guys.
I wish we had more time to celebrate, but nope. There was a lot more to do, so back to work.
It's crunch time. It's in.
It's working, E.T., it's working!
You're back here. We're gonna be down to the wire.
Today's the end of the road.
And that she's finished.
Wait for it. Oh!
My favorite part of the restoration was the night it was finished.
No hug? 3. Oh, you hug. Okay.
And I don't mean that smugly, I mean that finally able to exhale and all stand there with our arms around each other and say, I never thought we'd make it.
We worked on the time machine for over a year, and it was brutal. But we did whatever it took to get the job done.
I think all of us gave a little piece of our soul to bring this car back to life, so we did this special thing to sort of celebrate the restoration. The entire team and Bob Gale signed it. We have our names on that car permanently forever. It was a way of memorializing that moment, and it's hidden away. No one can ever see it. It's kind of perfect.
Just being attached to this project in some way, shape, or form has totally been worth everything that we put into it.
It was time spent with friends, it was time spent with the best car in the world, and who else could ask for more?
When I finally got to see the fully restored car, my jaw dropped. I mean, the work these guys did was phenomenal. It was a very proud moment.
The car is perfect, and that's not a phrase I use lightly.
That beautiful shape, that silhouette that is unlike any other in the world. That's why we did it, because we brought that back to what it's supposed to be.
Seeing the time circuits, the speedometer, the flux capacitor, the gauges are on. It's really surreal, but at the same time, it's just really rewarding knowing we restored the vehicle.
To know what we did was just this sense of accomplishment that we did something that nobody else did, or even I don't think anyone else could have done.
You know, that opening shot when the DeLorean's rolling out of Doc's van, you know, every time I watch that now, it means a lot more because I worked on that car, you know, I put it back.
The restoration team did an absolutely fabulous job of bringing this car back to life 25 years later. It's ready to go before the camera.
For those guys to put that kind of effort and care and time into that project, it's just a huge honor to have worked on something that they feel is worthy of their time and effort. It's just a huge honor.
All of you guys, I have a heart for you all, and I think it's magnificent what you did, and necessary to the history of mankind.
Now that the car was fully restored back to its original screen condition, we knew we needed to spend that same amount of time and energy to display it in the proper way. So fans of the film trilogy can see the DeLorean, but also hopefully casual fans who maybe even haven't seen the film yet can learn about this car and learn about Back to the Future and keep that franchise alive for years and years and years to come.
They stepped up to the plate. They created a wonderful, wonderful showcase to keep it safe from the elements, to keep it safe from the hands of tourists, and it was just fabulous what they did.
The fact that it's on display now in a perfectly restored condition is a testament to the power of that film and to the power of love.
For myself, it took me back to when I was young, about 1986, and I would see the car on display at Universal Studios. And seeing it in that exact same condition now, once again, made me feel like a kid again.
When you watch Back to the Future, seeing the DeLorean in person is a way that makes it that much more real. You know, you can't meet Marty McFly, you can't meet Doc Brown because they're not real people, but the car is real. And the fact that you can see it in person, it's special.
Universal Studios and Bob Gale trusted us with this priceless icon, and I hope we did them proud.
I've been a fan of Back to the Future for 30 years. Restoring the DeLorean time machine really was a childhood dream come true.
So thanks to the efforts of Joe Walser and the Time Machine restoration team and all the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that they put into this, the time machine is preserved beautifully now, for the future, and for all time.
What?